What's going on, guys? Today I'm here to talk about the unfortunate cancellation of a really, really cool program, The Vince Staples Show. As the name would suggest, it was created by the rapper Vince Staples, and it basically was like a comedy series that followed fictionalized versions of himself and other people, whether they be, family members or even real life celebrities. Like Rick Ross made an appearance in one. And just stuff of that nature. And I know I called it a comedy series, but I really such a unrepresentative of what it truly was, because it was a very, very unique series. I've never seen anything like it, and it definitely stood out for a lot of really good reasons. I mean, the critical reception was not the reason this was canceled. It was just the numbers apparently didn't add up to what Netflix would have expected or wanted out of it, so they pulled the plug. And I do think it's a shame, just because Vince Staples is such a, talented creator. I don't even want to say just rapper, because the show was like proof that he does have just like the creative muscle to help him in whatever creative endeavors he wants to go after, whether it be music or TV. Unfortunately, this little thing with TV doesn't seem to have gone the way I'm sure he would have wanted as well. But just because Netflix canceled doesn't mean everything's over. I don't know the workings behind the deal, so it could be a situation where Netflix still owns the rights to the show and he can't really do anything. But I'm hoping that at the very least they would have let him leave with the rights, even if he can't move season 1 and 2 over. At least pursue a season 3 with maybe a different company like Hulu or whoever else might be interested. But knowing giant corporations, I'm sure that's not going to be as easy of a thing as I'm sure anyone would like. But yeah, I feel bummed for Vince, because he's a very, very talented person. Clearly, he's always had like a very known sense of humor, I feel, from his fans and the internet at large. And this was like the perfect way for him to showcase his unique brand of humor in a very, very unique execution too. Like I said, I know I called it a comedy series, but it really is a very, very odd show. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, just like I've never seen another show like that. And so, although I think it's a shame that it did get canceled, I'm not too surprised, just because it's a very unique premise. And you have to be a big fan of Vince's, I think, to get over some of the weirdness that your average viewer might not understand. Or if you don't know Vince Staples, know that that is kind of like part of his brand a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, it like surprised me too with the content and the way it was shot and told. But I really did enjoy it for what it was. Vince taking the stab at a TV show is really, really cool to me, and it sucked because I mean, there's barely any episodes created. I know season 1 had like only 5, and I think season 2 maybe only had like 6. I don't even think it had like the standard 8 that they usually do for a series like this, which is still too little. But yeah, it's a shame that although the little we did get was so short, I am just hopeful that he can move on to another bigger and better project, whatever it might be. Like I said, hopefully he can somehow figure out how to keep the Vince Staples show rights and stuff like that, to maybe try doing it independently, even something of that nature through YouTube. I'm not sure, but I do know that it is just kind of in line with Netflix as a company. They just I don't understand the what the executives there are necessarily thinking. I know for this one, they're like, well, it doesn't get the viewership that we projected or predicted. Maybe that was based off nothing. Maybe it was based off, previous viewership. But like the stats that I saw articles quoting were very weird. Like it only got 1.7 million views between, November and the end of the year. Where I don't know. Just you can tell that this was not something that they were gonna unfortunately let stand on its merit and just be happy to have, because it was a really, really cool show, really, really cool premise. And obviously, Vince Staples is just such a, charismatic person that any endeavor that he has, his fans, such as myself, will want to, at least check out. And I do that for a lot of different artists. I mean, I was very excited for Vince, just because, like I said, I feel like this type of thing fit very well with his pre-established brand, sense of humor, and personality that his fans and like the general internet kind of know him for. But there's plenty of other artists out there too that I love when they try to venture out like this. Like the first person that truly showed me how how it could go was Lil Dicky with Dave. And that show's somewhat in a similar situation, not straight up canceled, but after the last season, there's been no word on a follow up season or anything. So who knows if that keeps on going. And although they were very similar to me because the first season, while very comedic, the follow up seasons somewhat maintain that tone, but definitely go down like different paths and don't necessarily stick to the first sort of vibe that the first season goes through. I felt this a lot more with season 2 of the Vince Staples show than Dave, although Dave definitely also had its own departure. The season 2 of the Vince Staples show was definitely very, very different. I can understand why even people that were fans of the first season wouldn't have necessarily liked the second season. It's hard to describe without, just you going to watch them and understanding what I'm saying. But they just definitely had different vibes while maintaining sort of the core like themes and such. So I would go check it out. Who knows with Netflix when it might just get booted from the service entirely, let alone just canceled. They're terrible with that. They've had multiple shows where it's a Netflix original, yet it leaves eventually, and maybe it goes somewhere else. Maybe now it's just in the ether, and the only way to catch it is to torrent it or go to some sketchy website, which is just a shame. I wish they would just figure it out for the sake of letting people at least consume the content that they have at one point. Like I know the Voltron series like there's a bunch of stuff they had that was like in partnership with DreamWorks, I believe, and I'm pretty sure all of that almost left the service, or if not just a majority of it. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you watched Vince Staples show, if you liked it, if you're sad it got canceled, if it kind of makes sense to you. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll catch you later.